We've been like brothers for years, and despite having our differences, when you lead with the idea of, number one, resolve, but then also just think about the future.
Some rivalries in Hollywood feel bigger than the movies themselves, and the tension between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel is no exception. What started as a brotherhood on screen has evolved into one of the most talked-about feuds in recent action film history. At 53, Dwayne Johnson has finally lifted the veil on what really happened behind the scenes during their collaborations. Could this be the most revealing insider account yet? Stay tuned, because the truth might surprise even the staunchest fans. Early signs of conflict. The first signs of tension between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel were subtle, but steadily became impossible to ignore. Both brought star power and authority to the Fast and Furious franchise, yet their personalities and working styles often clashed behind the scenes. From early on, their visions for leadership and creative control were not fully aligned. Diesel, long viewed as the franchise's guiding force, adopted a protective and authoritative role, while Johnson's arrival introduced a competitive energy that shifted established dynamics. Insiders recalled that small disagreements surfaced during early filming, often away from the cameras. With devoted fan bases and growing influence, both men were aware of their evolving status, not just as collaborators, but as rivals. While the films projected unity and brotherhood, interviews and online chatter hinted that harmony did not always exist. What began as professional differences gradually intensified into a deeper conflict. Both Johnson and Diesel were natural leaders, but their approaches to work sharply contrasted. Johnson's wrestling background shaped his reputation for discipline, punctuality, and relentless effort, which sometimes caused friction. Diesel, meanwhile, was deeply invested in the franchise's creative direction, often asserting control over scripts and production decisions. Neither was inclined to compromise, particularly when it came to respect and influence. Personal dynamics further fueled the divide. Crew members observed strained communication and moments of quiet frustration between the two stars. Efforts to preserve the on-screen camaraderie fans loved were increasingly challenged by private disagreements and the pressure of delivering blockbuster results. As Johnson quickly rose to top billing status, the franchise hierarchy shifted. Diesel remained the emotional anchor and producer, while Johnson became a fan-favorite powerhouse. This unspoken competition for influence subtly divided the set, affecting cast and crew alike, and laying the groundwork for a highly publicized feud. Initially, the media subtly noticed the tension and made headlines that questioned the two action stars' relationship. No side officially admitted to having serious conflicts, but the fans and the people in the entertainment business were in tune with the situation. Dwayne Johnson's professionalism was often contrasted with Vin Diesel's more fiery and private personality, which made the conflict of characters hard to reconcile. These early whispers pointed to the existence of larger conflicts, which later on became the main characteristics of their relationship. During the production of Fast and Furious 7, and later the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, these minor conflicts turned into major issues that could not be ignored anymore. Some people from the crew shared their experiences of having awkward moments with the two during their scenes, or during promotional activities, though, from the viewer's perspective, the chemistry was still very strong. The two actors were instrumental in bringing the films to the top of the box office. But the price they paid in terms of their relationships behind the scenes was becoming more and more obvious. There were huddles concerning how the struggles for power in the filming area impacted the selection of actors and the approval of the script. The fact that Vin Diesel was the one calling the shots when it came to the franchise's creative decisions raised doubts about whether Johnson was being ignored or if he was really being given the chance to fight back. At the same time, Johnson's gaining star power began to be a threat to Diesel's longtime status as the lead actor whom the audiences loved. None of them was ready to give up ground, and this discreet confrontation discreetly influenced the production environment of the movies that were to come. In spite of these initial symptoms of trouble, very few were aware of the magnitude of the fallout to come. The two actors seemed to keep up the professional masks in front of the cameras while the private conflict continued at a low pace. The disagreements soon boiled over into visible confrontations as filming progressed, moving beyond subtle tension to outright clashes. On-set clashes. As the Fast and Furious franchise expanded into its later installments, actual clashes between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel started making headlines. According to numerous reports, their differences escalated from simple personality conflicts into more serious production disruptions. Johnson himself once described the working environment as toxic in an interview, highlighting the stress caused by these strained relationships. Behind closed doors, the two stars reportedly had heated exchanges that affected morale on set. Crew members and co-stars later confirmed that the atmosphere was increasingly difficult, with some describing moments where the two would barely speak to each other between takes. Diesel, protective of the franchise's integrity, was allegedly resistant to Johnson's rising influence, which felt like a challenge to his authority. Johnson's competitive nature and desire to bring new energy also contributed to these clashes. The tension spilled over into scenes where both actors had to share screen time, sometimes causing delays and rewrites. One particularly notable incident occurred during the production of Fast and Furious 8. Reports surfaced that Johnson had told Diesel, "You're going to have to make this work," implying that Diesel needed to adjust to Johnson's vision. This was seen as a turning point, with media outlets framing it as the start of an open feud. While neither side publicly confirmed all the details, insiders painted a picture of frequent disagreements on creative direction and leadership. Their interactions reflected deeper struggles over control and respect. The conflict also extended into promotional activities and public relations. At events, interviews, and press tours, the two stars sometimes made indirect or cryptic remarks that fans and media interpreted as digs at each other. Johnson occasionally made comments emphasizing teamwork and professionalism, while Diesel maintained a more guarded approach to discussing tension, focusing instead on loyalty and franchise legacy. These subtle contrasts added layers to the public narrative about their rivalry. Insiders associated with the movie production disclosed that the animosities not only affected the two main actors, but also the whole team around them. Many of the supporting cast members and crew were dragged into the disputes as different groups were formed, and the labor atmosphere changed. A few of them even confessed that they were feeling the pressure to take sides or to get used to a more aggressive environment. The fallout was not limited to personal disputes, and it had an impact on the whole movie team quietly. On the other hand, the two stars were able to give great performances, supporting their numbers at the box office, thus showing that they are able to generate revenue even in the case of conflicts. But the prey of keeping this success was visible in their difficult relationship. A lot of people were skeptical about how long the rivalry could be maintained without serious damage to the franchise or forcing one of them to quit. It became a topic of speculation who would eventually conquer. Meanwhile, the rivalry was further accentuated by the behind-the-scenes negotiations and discussions on contracts and billing. The rumors surrounding Diesel's feeling of threat or his being undermined were powered by the combination of the higher salary and star billing of Johnson. These business disputes, indeed, complicated the already difficult negotiations between their creative minds. It became clear how personal and professional challenges were intertwined as the franchise readied itself for the next episode. The point when production on Furious 8 was coming to an end, and Johnson's spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw, was gaining popularity, the feud seemed to have reached a high point. Reports were claiming that Johnson had officially cut off his connection with the main franchise, which was viewed as a sign that he wanted to get away from the tension and explore new opportunities. On the other hand, Diesel kept on being the producer and the main character of the ongoing Fast saga, which was interpreted as a sign of the separation between the two stars. While the on-set clashes captivated headlines, social media and interviews soon became the new battleground where fans could watch the feud unfold in real time. Public statements and social media. With the rise of social media platforms, the public gained unprecedented access to the personal thoughts and exchanges of celebrities like Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel. Tweets, Instagram posts, and interviews became channels where subtle jabs and cryptic messages fueled fan speculation about their ongoing tensions. Followers eagerly scrutinized every comment, looking for clues to the true nature of their relationship. This new level of visibility transformed a private conflict into an ongoing public spectacle. Johnson often used social media to promote his work ethic and team values, sharing motivational messages that many interpreted as indirect responses to his feud with Diesel. In contrast, Diesel preferred a more controlled and rare public communication style. But when he did speak, his words were carefully crafted to reinforce his authority and commitment to the franchise. One of the most talked-about online moments came when Johnson included a pointed line in an Instagram post referring vaguely to bullying and unprofessional behavior without naming anyone directly. Fans immediately connected this to the ongoing reports of tension with Diesel. While some praised Johnson for his candidness, others criticized the air of drama it created. This sparked a frenzy of debate, turning their feud into a viral entertainment topic beyond just film fans. Vin Diesel responded with a rare public statement emphasizing family, loyalty, and unity. Words that many read as a subtle reprimand toward Johnson's apparent airing of grievances. His loyal fan base rallied around his message, defending his role as the franchise's cornerstone. These public back-and-forths kept the narrative alive and deepened the divide between the two camps. Each actor's online presence became a strategic move in controlling the story. The social media exchanges were not limited to official channels. Cast members, producers, and insiders occasionally weighed in, sometimes offering support or trying to mediate the conflict. These external voices added layers to the public discussion, revealing how the feud affected relationships across the entire Fast and Furious family. The lines between personal and professional blurred further as the story unfolded in real time for millions to witness. The impact of these statements extended beyond just fan interest. Industry insiders noted how the tension influenced casting and production decisions. Trust between the leads became a delicate issue, and studios became wary of escalating conflicts that could endanger investments. This added pressure intensified the importance of public messaging and damage control for both stars. Even throughout the drama, Johnson and Diesel did not step out of bounds and always acted with professionalism when it was needed, and they usually stressed their mutual respect or their joint achievements. This showcase of rivalry and respect made the storyline difficult to follow, but still very intriguing, and not simply aggressive. Fans and media were left guessing about the state of things. Was there any possibility of reconciliation, or was the feud to be the franchise's hallmark? The personal views of social media users were no longer private, but very public entertainment, and in this instance, it blew up the already intricate relationship between two Hollywood icons. Their interactions in the digital world were as narratively compelling as any blockbuster film script. The continuous attention made it difficult for them to express their true feelings and, at the same time, meet the demands of millions of followers scattered across the globe. While social media intensified their public persona clash, the real tension took a toll on the Fast and Furious franchise itself, influencing its creative future and how audiences viewed the saga. Impact on Fast and Furious franchise. The simmering conflict between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel inevitably left a lasting mark on the Fast and Furious franchise, shaping not just the films but also how fans perceived the series. What was once a tightly knit ensemble cast with a genuine family vibe became known for its behind-the-scenes drama. This tension influenced production schedules and even creative decisions, forcing producers to adapt and sometimes rework storylines to accommodate the strained relationship. The chemistry that had been a franchise hallmark shifted noticeably, raising questions about the series' future and its ability to maintain momentum. The split between Johnson and Diesel became especially apparent during press tours and promotional events for the latter movies. Fans and media noticed a coldness when the two stars appeared together, signaling that the off-screen feud was reaching public consciousness. This shift changed the way audiences engaged with the characters. Instead of seeing seamless camaraderie, there was an underlying awareness of conflict that colored emotional investment. With box office success still strong, the franchise had to carefully balance the two stars' visibility while managing internal politics. Johnson's role as Luke Hobbs was given its own standalone spin-off movie, Hobbs and Shaw, which allowed him to pursue a separate storyline while somewhat easing tensions with Diesel. This move helped the franchise expand into new territory but also underscored the divide between the two leading men. Fans saw it as both an opportunity and a sign that the original ensemble's cohesion was fractured. Vin Diesel remained the producer and the character of the main series, further increasing his emotional investment in the preservation of the franchise's legacy. The actor's zeal was the main factor behind maintaining the original family-friendly and inclusive atmosphere that attracted the audience. But the rising public consciousness about the friction created uncertainty about whether this vision could be maintained in such a high-profile fight. The brand of Fast and Furious was trying to accomplish the impossible by no longer having to deal with individual aspirations versus common success. The division also influenced the telling of the story and the selection of the actors. The screenplays were modified to cut down on the face-to-face meetings between the characters played by Johnson and Diesel, which was a creative way out that fans very quickly noticed. This on-screen division was a reflection of the off-screen reality, which made it more complicated and sometimes disappointing for the audience that was expecting more frequent collaborations to see fewer of them. The filmmaking had to tread this fragile line very carefully so that the story remained both credible and satisfying. From a financial point of view, the franchise was still a market leader, but studio executives were virtually cautious by nature. The conflict threatened to change the whole situation, not to mention that it was going to hurt the brand's reputation. Producers were caught between the two extremes of the battle. How much did the feud affect audience turnout, negatively or positively, and what was the star power of each individual? The triumph of Hobbs and Shaw was a testament to Johnson's ability to attract people to the cinemas, but the Fast and Furious movies were still very much dependent on the basic presence of Diesel. During the interviews, the cast members absolutely said that they were not entirely happy with the conflict. But they did talk about how they were committed to the team and that they were going to disagree personally. The moments where friendship was very evident among some co-stars made the situation more complicated. people were trying to keep the peace between the growing factions. This complicated chapter in the franchise's history set the stage for Dwayne Johnson's next move, one that would clarify his path forward and redefine his relationship with Vin Diesel and the world of action films. Dwayne Johnson's solo path. After years of collaboration and conflict, Dwayne Johnson chose to carve out a solo path that would both capitalize on his rising star power and distance him from the tensions surrounding the Fast and Furious franchise. His decision to fully commit to Hobbs and Shaw as a spin-off not only allowed him greater creative freedom, but also allowed him to build an identity independent from Vin Diesel's shadow. This move showcased Johnson's strategic thinking in managing both his career and personal brand. Hobbs and Shaw offered a fresh start that highlighted Johnson's charisma and action star credentials without the baggage of ongoing disputes. The film's success, grossing over $700 million worldwide, reinforced Johnson's status as a viable lead for blockbuster franchises beyond Fast and Furious. This financial and critical achievement demonstrated that his appeal could extend into new cinematic universes, appealing to a broad audience hungry for dynamic storytelling and larger-than-life heroes. Beyond the box office, Johnson leveraged his solo projects to emphasize values such as professionalism, inclusivity, and hard work, which contrasted with the reported difficulties of his prior collaborations. His public image became one of a dependable, optimistic leader who could inspire both fans and colleagues. This positive framing helped him navigate any leftover tension by shifting focus onto his own merits rather than conflicts with others. Johnson's post-Fast and Furious career also involved major roles in different genres and franchises, including family films like Jumanji and Black Adam. These choices expanded his appeal and prevented his identity from being tied exclusively to one series. By diversifying his roles, Johnson demonstrated resilience and calculated ambition, aligning with his vision to become Hollywood's highest-earning and most bankable star. While Hobbs and Shaw was a spin-off, Johnson's involvement in the Fast and Furious saga became increasingly limited, signaling a professional separation even if personal reconciliation remained uncertain. The decision to limit shared screen time with Diesel and the original cast acknowledged the irreparable strains, but also allowed each to pursue distinct creative directions. This distancing allowed the franchise to function without forcing an uneasy partnership on audiences or the actors themselves. The solo path also brought Johnson closer to studio executives who recognized both his box office draw and his ability to carry films as a solo lead. His track record strengthened his bargaining power in contract negotiations and offered him influence in shaping projects beyond acting, including producing roles. This shift redefined Johnson from just an ensemble player to a true franchise cornerstone in his own right. Johnson's personal brand, built around authenticity and motivational messaging on social media, played a key role in maintaining fan loyalty through this period of transition. His openness about challenges and perseverance resonated deeply, shielding him from some of the negative fallout associated with the Diesel feud. Fans continued to support his ventures enthusiastically, making his solo efforts some of the most anticipated releases in recent years. Despite stepping away from the main Fast franchise, Johnson remained respectful about its importance and hinted at no lasting bitterness in public statements. This diplomatic stance helped maintain his broad appeal without alienating fans of the series or casting unwanted shadows on future collaborations. Whether or not a full reunion ever happens, Johnson's career trajectory clearly took on a new chapter, one defined less by rivalry and more by opportunity. The choice to pursue a solo path was as much about professional evolution as personal well-being. For Johnson, distancing himself from conflict allowed him to focus on growth, creativity, and legacy, proving that sometimes stepping away is the strongest move of all. With this new direction set, understanding Vin Diesel's perspective provides a fuller picture of the tension's impact on both men and the franchise they helped build together. Vin Diesel's perspective. Vin Diesel's side of the story reveals a deeply personal investment in the Fast and Furious franchise and a complex response to the public tensions with Dwayne Johnson. Diesel has long described the series as more than just movies, a family and a legacy built over the years. From his perspective, maintaining creative control and cohesion was essential to protect what he saw as a sacred bond among cast and crew. This intense loyalty sometimes clashed with Johnson's different approach to leadership and collaboration. Throughout interviews and public statements, Diesel has expressed hurt and frustration about how the feud played out, especially as it spilled into the media. He has acknowledged disagreements but emphasized his commitment to keeping the team united despite challenges. Diesel framed these conflicts as attempts to safeguard the spirit of the franchise against what he perceived as divisive forces. His view was that unity and respect had to come first, even if it meant confronting difficult personalities. In addition to this, Diesel cited the producer role that made him responsible for more than just acting. He was supposed to guide the future of the franchise and to manage a big cast and crew, which put him in a place where hard choices were unavoidable. The added pressure made his relationship with Johnson, who was quickly becoming a star and wanting more power, even more difficult. The overlapping roles created friction that was already there because of the different visions for the film's direction. But Diesel put open communication and good manners between the actors as a priority, publicly asking Johnson and others to bury their hatchets and work together for the project's advantage. He pointed out the times when he thought some actors' behavior, coming from their egos, was damaging to the morale of the team. His method was a combination of tough love and what he called a fatherly duty to the franchise family. Diesel's mediation efforts were sometimes not visible, but were nonetheless an indication of his sense of ownership. At times, Diesel shunned the idea of participating in the social media conflict with Johnson. He thought the franchise would be hurt by the public display of disputes. Rather, he made it his purpose to control the narrative through a limited number of public appearances and statements that were all very carefully chosen. This strategy aimed to display power and to protect the image of Fast and Furious, even amidst the rumors that were still going on. Diesel's carefully considered communication style was in stark contrast to Johnson's more frequent and open online presence, and thus their approaches were even more distinct. Although he has been very straightforward when talking about the issues, Diesel has also resulted in the franchise's victories, and the mutual understanding with most of the co-stars has been maintained over the years. He admits that the disputes with Johnson account for only a small part of the entire story. Loyalty, friendship, business, and artistic passion are the main themes of the story. This subtle position invites the fans and insiders to see the complexity behind the conflict-focused headlines. The ripple effects of this high-profile feud drew reactions from colleagues and insiders deeply connected to the franchise's inner workings. Industry reactions. The feud between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel extended far beyond a private disagreement, sending ripples through the Fast and Furious franchise and the wider industry. Cast members, crew, and insiders were often caught in the middle, navigating strained relationships and shifting on-set dynamics that reflected the growing divide. Michelle Rodriguez, a longtime co-star, acknowledged the tension publicly while avoiding sides. She emphasized professionalism and unity, admitting the atmosphere could be difficult, but expressing hope that time and maturity might heal the rift. Her response reflected the careful balance many cast members tried to maintain between loyalty and workplace stability. Tyrese Gibson was more outspoken, voicing frustration over what he perceived as disunity within the team. Through interviews and social media, he called for reconciliation and stressed that the conflict distracted from the franchise's larger goals. His candor highlighted how deeply the feud affected those beyond the two central figures. Producers and crew members later hinted at a tense work environment, describing a set divided into factions where off-screen conflict occasionally disrupted momentum and complicated production. While the films continued to succeed commercially, rumors of behind-the-scenes struggles persisted, drawing added scrutiny from fans and media. Studio pressure to keep the franchise on track only heightened the situation. Industry observers viewed the feud as emblematic of broader Hollywood challenges, where star power and ego can clash with collaborative storytelling. Managing high-profile personalities requires diplomacy, and the visibility of Johnson and Diesel's conflict turned the franchise into a cautionary example of leadership under public scrutiny. Fans and critics were divided, with some believing the feud weakened on-screen chemistry, while others argued it fueled public interest. Studio executives largely stayed silent, but reportedly monitored the situation closely, encouraging solutions such as spin-offs to reduce friction while protecting long-term profitability. Ultimately, the rivalry became one of the most publicized in modern Hollywood, underscoring how fragile collaboration can be when massive careers and franchises collide. Even as industry voices mulled over the impact of this feud, the final and most revealing chapter would come from Dwayne Johnson himself, who chose to break his silence completely. The full exposure. At 53, Dwayne Johnson chose to break his silence, offering a rare and candid look behind the headlines surrounding his feud with Vin Diesel. Through interviews and public statements, Johnson revealed that working on the franchise created significant personal and professional strain. He described an environment where respect and mutual support were inconsistent, making collaboration difficult despite the film's massive success. His honesty gave fans a clearer view of the real dynamics that had long been hidden behind speculation. Johnson admitted the ongoing tension affected his mental well-being and the morale on set. He spoke openly about feeling isolated at times, even as he tried to promote teamwork and professionalism. These revelations challenged the polished public image of their partnership and highlighted the importance of accountability and honesty in creative collaborations, qualities Johnson felt were often missing. According to Johnson, one of the main sources of conflict was their different ways of leading. He characterized his method as sharing and lifting, concentrating on giving the power to the cast and crew. On the other hand, he regarded Diesel's leadership as a dictatorship that curtailed communication and hence created divisions. This difference in philosophies, as per Johnson, made it hard to work together for any lengthy period of time. The rivalry, in turn, influenced certain crucial career moves. Johnson pointed out that it was mostly the need for artistic freedom and personal tranquility that made him leave the main series and concentrate on Hobbs and Shaw. It was a deliberate act to safeguard not only his artistic integrity, but also his well-being. Professionally, there was no impact. Johnson went on to say that the fight was a test of his values. He mentioned feelings of frustration and being done wrong, but at the same time, he talked about getting stronger, being more resilient, and learning to practice setting firm and healthy boundaries. Although he did not directly call it so, Johnson referred to Diesel's comparatively subdued and restrained response, yet insisted that honesty and respect should always be the guiding principles for working together. Through narrating his experience, Johnson not only rekindled the discussion on leadership, professionalism, and a healthy work environment in Hollywood, but also redefined the narrative of one of the industry's most publicized feuds by shedding light on the underlying issues. Dwayne Johnson's candid revelations peel back the curtain on a rivalry that reshaped one of Hollywood's biggest franchises. This story reminds us that even the biggest stars face real challenges in collaboration and respect. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. And stick around to watch the next video on your screen, where we dig into another behind-the-scenes Hollywood moment that changed everything.